Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook. It's Sunday, so I'm going to shoot a couple of samples, and we're still heading into July 1st, so I want to do some Canadian samples. And I realized that I didn't get to the other two of the four samples that Maison Sivo sent to me out of Quebec. So today I want to talk about a single cask of their single malt. This is cask number 46, and it's finished in PX sherry or aged in PX sherry. I'm not quite clear. And then I've got a sample of their just released a single malt but peated single malt. So I don't know the casking on this one. We'll get into the details, but right now these are both single malt samples from Maison Sivo in Quebec. And why don't you pour a little Canadian single malt if you have? If you have any from Sivo, that's even better. And come back and we'll talk single malt, single cask, and peated cask from Sivo when we come back. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. As I said in the opener, this is some Canadian single malt out of Quebec. And the first one we're going to look at is their single cask. Now, I don't know enough details on this specific single cask. If you go to their website, I will say all of their single malts are natural color and non-chill filtered. It mentions on the website that it's about 43.5% ABV. I don't know if this single cask is that or not. But I'm going to go with that. And this one says cask number 46. And it does say has, so I'm guessing PX sherry. And I don't know if that's a finishing in sherry. That's my guess. Or an aging. And I also don't know the overall age. I believe their single malts tend to be between 4 and 6 years. And their single casks are likely around that 5-6 year mark, a little bit older. So we'll start with the single cask, the one that's finished or at least aged in PX sherry. I feel like this is maybe a house style for them. I get a lot of creamy malt, cereal malt, and a husky grain. But this one has some other fruits, some stone fruits. So whether that's a little bit of peach, a little bit of apricot. Yeah, and the husky grain note is giving it a bit of an earthy tone. And I would say, like, I remember when I shot their regular single malt, I mentioned that as well. And Ian, the master blender there, who sent me these samples, did say that they actually do a full grain husk in their mash, which is why a lot of that grain note, that really husky barley note comes through. Definitely that on the nose. So let's try it on the palate. Cheers. It's a nice younger single malt. More more of that cut fruit, not so sharp as apple, so I'm still gonna say it's sweet like stone fruit, but then maybe a bit of melon in there. Gentle spicing. It's well put together, nice structure, a little bit of oak on the finish. For PX sherry, I was expecting, well, you know what? Now that I said that out loud, the sweetness of the fruit is likely what I'm getting. I'm not getting, a thick resinous sherry, and that makes sense because I tend to get that a little more of Oloroso than PX. So yeah, this is a sweeter, almost cherry, light fruits. The huskiness is less pronounced on the palate for me than it was on the nose. And now I'm getting some, early finish, some spicing. Gonna try another sip. Yeah, and now did I say a little bit of cinnamons, a little bit of gentle spicing, not too much. Well, maybe more a nutmeg, or a nut. Actually, now that I'm saying that out loud, a little bit of walnut going on in there, and then that sweet fruit. So I like this, and I like it better than the regular single malt. It clearly has a, a better fruit palate, and the balance of that husky is better in the palate for me. So this is a very fine sample for me. It's still, you know, young and malty, and that's good for a single malt. But I just want to be careful. For my palate, I definitely like it. But for those that drink, you know, older scotches, I think you would find this still that young, a little bit of a little bit of ethanol here now, and it might challenge you a little bit, but I think the flavors are on point. Very interesting. I'm excited to try this. I don't know the casking behind this, but this is their peated single malt, which is really cool to get in Canada. So I'm assuming, well, everything they do is natural and non-chill filtered, so I'm assuming that here as well. I don't know the parts per million. I don't know the percentage of peated malt. I believe while these are local grains, this might be some peated malt from Scotland. If I find out more details, I'll pin it in the comment down below, but I wanted to get this out before Canada Day in case it's in your market and you want to think about it. So they're peated on the nose. Earthy, forest, like, you know, like leaf litter type. What I mean is, you know, you get that ground note. Comparison, this really does have sweet fruits, light cherries. This, very barley forward. I made this comment almost a year ago when I reviewed their regular single malt, and I said it reminds me of Barley Batch from Canadian Club, and it really does for me. Young barley malt, definitely malt forward. This one earthier, so it even more that kind of being in the grain barn, being in the grain area. The peat for me here is not really smoky. It's really around that earthy, a little bit briny, like a little bit of brine. Yeah. But it's taking us in that kind of smoldery direction and not smoky direction. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. It's actually in the palate far more. The peat. Now I've got bit of, you know, driftwood campfire. Now I've got a little more smoldery, yeah, ash campfire. It's not too dry ash, but it's not as fruity. So I don't know what casking they've done on this, but this tastes far more like ex-bourbon. So there's a little bit of light vanillas in there and whatnot, and some sweetness, like orchard sweetness, but it, oh boy, the palate is definitely more peated. I better try another sip. Cheers. That's tasty. It's tasty, and it's definitely all that. Now it's, instead of earthy, it's campfire, and there is some bit of ash in there, and like a nice older tobacco. Yep, definitely a little bit of cigar, older tobacco. Not winey like cigars. You know, have that sweet tobacco sometimes. I'm not taking the sweetness, but the older. Now I get the impression of smoky. Wasn't getting it on the nose, but now with the glowing ambers around that seaside campfire, I can get it. Very interesting. Both of these are good, really good, and certainly a quality release. You know, with natural color, non-chill filtered, released at a bit stronger percent. If I was guessing their percent, I would push them up even to, they drink a little bit more. Certainly, this one drinks more like a 46% than a 43. So presence, but not overpowering. Nice flavors. This one definitely is peat in the palate. The nose was cloying in the sense that it was kind of eluding me. Like, well, where is that peat? I'm getting more earthy and more nutty and more malty, but full expression in the palate. The peat is very present in the palate. In fact, it goes from like a light peat, where's the peat kind of thing, to like this feels like a 30 parts per million, 35, it's right here. It's definitely in the conversation. This is sweet, lighter, fruitier, still that characteristic, a little bit of kind of a nut husk going on in the malt, but integrated well, and it would be a lighter and easier to recommend for just, people who like single malts, more like a Highland style, whereas this clearly, is pushing into Isla. Like, it's not an Isla peat monster, but it definitely has got present campfire and ash and older tobacco throughout. Thanks for joining me here. And thank you again, Ian and Maison Sivo, for sending this to me. Sorry it took so long to get to it, but I'm very thankful that you did. And I'm also thankful for the size of samples, because I do like bringing them back into comparison, or, trying them with water and taking some time. But with you guys, I just like pouring them and taste them for the first time. So these are just my first thoughts. Hope you're having a great Sunday and have a great work week coming up. Take care.